What do we got? Well, this is different because usually we do this on Monday, and today's certainly not a Monday. I know for most of you it is. For a lot of the world it is, but it's not a Monday today. Today's actually called bonus day. Yesterday was Wednesday, and tomorrow's Thursday, so today's what we call the bonus day. We get a lot of our plans all in, and we get a lot of, kind of an extra review day is what you have when coming off the bye week for our guys, getting ready for Thursday night's game, and great challenge for us. I know, it seems weird. I mean, I guess since I'm here and we play Kentucky every single year, to me, and that's your East crossover, I think that always leads to a little bit of a rivalry because that's the team on the other side of the league you play every year. So I know our guys look forward to this game and treat it as a little bit of a rivalry game and for us. And obviously things will be a little different. New staff for them this year. Whole new philosophy on both sides of the football. And you see a team that Mark took over, and you see, them really buying into what he's trying to do. I mean, the results, and sometimes, as everybody knows in this league, the win-loss results might not total what you're accomplishing on the field, and you watch their team, and they're accomplishing an awful lot. Their guys are playing hard for 4 quarters, buying into their system, and you see a lot of growth and development on a team that looks like a very young football team. So it'll be a great challenge for us.
What did you take away from last year's game in Lexington against Kentucky?
We won. That's always a huge thing to me. But besides that, that's about it. Like we say, when it becomes kind of that rivalry game for you, our guys, that's a team you're playing every year. And I think you look a lot with those constant crossovers in this league. Becomes that way. LSU, Florida, Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, Auburn can lead to become somewhat of a rivalry game, and I view it that way. I think our guys do too. I'm sure they do the same way, and so that's kind of how we view it. But I wouldn't take much besides that we won last year, and I don't know. It'll have zero effect on this year's game. I thought I did a good job of explaining, and I was done.
Coach, you mentioned, I guess, first couple of weeks about Nick James likely to redshirt this year. Just kind of update how he's handled that. And
he's done a great job. I'm looking at his development and really develop. When you look at guys within the team, within the development of a program, there's a lot of different things that you look for, that making sure guys are developing the right way. And we as coaches, we try to do a lot of different things. Today, we might play a little Monday night football with a lot of the guys that either aren't getting money reps in the games or red-shirting, that you have different time frames. We did a little bit during the bye week here and there. During bowl prep, you get a lot of that, of the development of the future of guys. And so there's a lot of guys that are kind of in that boat that we monitor to make sure that they're developing the right way.
It just seems like on the practice field when we see him coming off, it's like he's dropped some weight and kind of...
Yeah, he's really worked. Working hard in school, working hard to take care of things, to do things the right way. And that's all part of the process. He has a long way to go, but he's certainly headed in the right direction.
Dan, talk about having David Turner on the staff again this year, and just what has he meant to the defensive line, especially developing young players like Chris?
Well, David has, with a great experience as a defensive line coach, and experience having coached here before, and and a long-term coach in the Southeastern Conference, as a very veteran guy. He knows, how to deal with guys. And you can look at our defensive line, which has so many guys in different stages of a career, and how you have to deal with them. You deal with them as a whole, but you also have to deal with everybody individually as well. And I think he does a really good job of dealing with those, all of the different issues, not on and off the field, that come up with every different, from guys that are in their last year to guys that are in their first year playing, and then everybody in between, of how you have to deal with each situation differently.
Dan, you said at the beginning of the year the linebackers were the core of the defense. What has McKinney and Skinner kind of done? How important have they been this season?
Well, they're huge, because one, you look at Skinner, who's a veteran for us and a senior. McKinney, who's a great leader for us. Matt Wells, who's kind of a playmaker for us, and those are the core of guys on the field. Well, they set a standard, and then when the next group comes in with Zach Jackson and, Richie Brown and Beniquez Brown, that standard's set very, very high for the guys in front of them. They're learning how to do their jobs the right way. And so what you have seen to me is tremendous improvement out of that second crew. You see huge steps being taken by Richie and Beniquez and Zach because of the standard that's been set by those first three in front of them. And I don't want to say we have good depth at that position, because every time I do that, we get devastated by injuries. So I'm not going to say that, but I mean, it's good that the older guys are setting the standard for the young guys, and the young guys are buying into that standard, which is equally as important.
Mentioned James there. Is it settled now after 6 games? Are you set on the red shirts and the not red shirts?
You never know, because injuries can always play a part in what happens for us down the road. But we've always said if we're going to play guys, we try to play them. So I mean, we still might, depending on how injuries go. I mean, we've been getting devastated with injuries so far this year that we might have to play some young guys that we were planning on redshirting, but. I mean, the numbers and the injuries have forced us to do that.
With the injuries in the secondary, talk to me about Justin Cox and what you've seen out of him through 6 games. And is this kind of the point in the year, I guess the halfway point, where you see JUCO kids maybe go to that next level and the game starts to slow down for them?
Well, he needs to. I think, it's the understanding of the game. And, I think a lot of, Justin was able to just go out, just make plays, run around, and you see that with guys, because a lot of guys, there's a very fine line, and you don't want to hold them up. There's a fine line between being a playmaker and doing your job. The most important thing is to do your job and then be a playmaker within the description of your doing your job. And that's tough for some guys, because some guys are so worried about doing their job they don't make plays. Other guys are so worried about being a playmaker, they don't do their job. And it's finding that balance of doing both, doing my job and making plays within my job description is huge. And that takes, I mean, some guys never get it figured out, I guess, but it takes some experience to learn how to do that. And the confidence in doing that, and knowing how to make a play within your job description that maybe you haven't had to do before. You could just kind of freelance and do what you wanted to do, which, a lot of junior college players, they can just, they get to freelance on the field a lot, in junior college, and then they come and they have to, learn the system, and it's learning how to do your, make a play within doing your job in the system.
Do you have a timeline for JUCO kids?
No.
Or is everybody kind of different?
Everybody's very, very, very different. I mean, look at guys. Darius Slay was peaking, walking out the door, and he still seems to be doing pretty well now for us. We'd love to have one more year with him of full peak on. But, I think a lot of that is how fast guys pick certain things up.
Dan, when you look at the 4th downs, you're very successful in the beginning of the season. I think 1 for the last 5. What's kind of happened, and do you plan on still continuing to go for 4th as much as you have been?
Absolutely, we're going to be aggressive. But I think a lot of them come in different game situations that you're in. And what your goal is within that situation, what you're trying to accomplish, a lot of the down and distance, and how the game's going. I think all of those are huge factors in your success. And, I mean, we look at it every week. We look at what we've done, what's been successful, what hasn't been successful, what can we do better. But our aggressive mindset's not going to change.
Is there a reason the numbers are up this year? I think 17 already through 6 games.
You know what? I think a lot of that stuff, when you get into special situations, numbers get very, very skewed from year to year. I look at last year, I think we had 3 goal line snaps on the entire season last year. We've had 3 we had 3 in the first game, or the second game of the season against Alcorn. We had like 3 in the first series. That equated our numbers for the entire year that were in the goal line formations and all that stuff. So, when you deal with that stuff, I think a lot of different situations that you're put into, those special situations can get skewed. I mean, we hadn't been back to the wall yet this year, really. Until last game, when it was like 3 drives in a row, we started inside our 5-yard line, and now you got to go to your back to the wall offense. those type of situations, they seem to show up in bunches. So maybe it's just the fourth down bunches, and might not have any the rest of the year. I don't, of how that stuff plays out.
Talking yesterday, you mentioned that you as the head coach, you figured out what the identity of this team is. I mean, can you relate that?
Well, I mean, obviously, a team to me that plays with great effort. I love the effort our team plays with, and but they're a team also that's learning how to be a team. A lot of young guys that are learning how the team concept works. I think we have a lot of guys that want to win, desperately want to win, and are learning how to do it within the team setting. It's everybody's kind of is always saying, what more can I do? And that's a great thing to have. And you got to learn what more can everyone does. But you can do a lot by not just worrying about you, but by also pushing and picking up the play of your teammates. And that's the type of team I've seen us have this year. Is those guys learning that process, but guys that have a great attitude, that have play with great effort, and are very hungry to win and be successful.
Dan, the Kentucky players have been pretty adamant about the fact that they've watched games this past Saturday, and these upsets on the road in the league kind of has inspired them to pull off one themselves. Does your team kind of the opposite reign true with your team? Do you guys watch those games and feel like we can beat anybody on any given Saturday?
Yeah, upsets to me are a tough deal in this league. I don't know. If they win, I don't know that you'd call it a real upset. And if we won, I don't know if I'd call it an upset or hold on. It should win games in this league. You got to play your A game. It's a pretty simple deal. You play your A game week in and week out. If you come in and you play sloppy, you go turn the ball over a bunch in the first half. It don't matter who you're playing. You're not going to win the game. If you come in and play real well, you have a good chance to win the game. And I think that holds true. So the upset part to me, I don't always see as much, I guess. And I guess a nice sign of respect. I guess they give up if they figure coming in here being upset. I think with a rivalry game, you kind of like this, you never really know.
More the point of the question though was kind of when you go on the road here in the future at South Carolina, at Texas A&M, when your kids watch these games this past Saturday, do they feel a little bit more hyped about going into those places?
Yeah, I think our guys.
You said before you take that underdog mentality to the road.
Yeah, we take that underdog mentality home at just about every game, I think. But no, I do think. I think with our guys, I think they look, and especially with the young players, they look at and like I said, when our guys are smart, we talk about that stuff. We talk about when you look at the games that are played, you go out and do your job. If we play our best game, I think we can play with anybody in the league. If we don't play our best game, we can lose to anybody in the league. And, it's that focus of performing at the highest of levels. We talked about it early in the year of getting better from week to week. I think we've done that. The last home game, I think we took a little step back. I don't think we played as good as we'd played the previous weeks. But we finished the game. It's one thing we hadn't done is make big defensive stops in the fourth quarter to win the game. So there was something that we did better than we'd done in previous weeks. So you can always take something that we're still moving forward with. And as we go into the second half of the season, we look and, I don't know, I was looking at the one stat I saw that, the record of our second half teams is not as good as the record of our first half teams, believe it or not, which hard to believe with who we have to play in the second half. And but, for our guys, they can look at that and say, hey, we feel we could have been in position to win just about every game in the first half of the season. And these are some things if we had done a little bit differently, we would have won the games. And these are the games we won, and if we had done something even a little bit differently, how close it would have been for us losing that game. And I think our guys look at that and that focus that they expect that we can come in and if we play our best, we can expect to have a great second half of the season.
When you look at Jamion, I think he started the season 20 targets, caught 10 of them. He seems to be catching a lot more of his targets. What have you seen differently recently with him?
Well, I think, the understanding of the game obviously comes in. This is his first time kind of being one of the go-to guys. I think he was kind of a role player in the past where we'd get him the ball in special situations. Now it's get him the ball on a consistent basis. And, their experience certainly plays a role in that of, understanding the different routes and how to get open, when to be open is huge, and reading coverages and where he needs to be and when he needs to be there. I think all of that certainly leads to it. And I think there's, with him, the pressure drops on you. If he drops a pass, if he makes a mistake or drops a pass, we're going to come back to him. And I think, sometimes when you're a role player in the past, say, hey, this is my chance. If I make a mistake, I don't know when I'm going to get my next chance. He knows as kind of one of our go-to guys that we're going to keep feeding him. And so I think that leads to making you play a little bit more relaxed and confident.
Could I ask a quick follow-up? When you said when to be open, what do you mean by when to be open?
Well, there's a lot of timing on different routes, whether you're front side, you're first or third in the progressions of the read for the play. And, a lot of guys, they freak out and say, oh, man, I was open. Well, yeah, you're the third read, so we didn't need you open right then, but we needed you open later. And if you ran your route at the right depth and got open at the right time, you would have caught the ball. And I think it's understanding the big picture of the offense, like, linemen going to block people. I don't need you to go, if you're going to block a second-level player and a linebacker, you don't need to block where they are. You need to go block where they're going to be by the time you get there, and you better understand where the ball's going and the whole play as a whole to do that.
Thank you.
Good deal.